Hey there, everybody. This is Tweaks. I was looking for some good videos online. I guess several of you guys missed my our cyber circuit hex editing workshop the other night. So I found a fairly okay video on introduction to what hexadecimal is, but I couldn't anywhere find a decent hex editing video that was worth a darn on YouTube. So after searching for an hour, I'm like, I can just make my own in 5 or 10 minutes. So here we are, making a video. So you guys should be looking at the lab I sent out. If you missed the other night, you want to check out the slides I presented and get down here to like slide 41, 42. That's where we go over editing our Gameboy ROM in hexadecimal. So the first video I sent you will talk about what is hexadecimal and how it translates into what we see, ASCII text over here. This is what the machine sees. It sees binary but represented as hexadecimal, and then this over here is the address fields of where in the file this thing is, this text string here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and I'll demonstrate hacking the game. So this is what the game looks like in a hex editor. If we're playing the game, it looks like it's got a game screen and we play it. But we're going to go inside the game and modify some of the opening graphics here, and the game over message down here. So this will let us make it say anything we want. So basic idea is ASCII data is anything on your keyboard basically is an ASCII character. So the letter G is hexadecimal 47, the letter A is hexadecimal 41, M is 4D, E is 45. Spaces are always 20 in hex, 20 in hex. So if you ever see 2 zeros between groupings of other hex digits, then you're probably looking at regular text. So you'll want to key in on that later. I'll show you real quick what it looks like if I say echo hello world. That's the ASCII text. If I look at this through a hex editor or hex dump, and this is available in any Linux, then this is what it looks like in hex. So hello world over here is the ASCII, and then in hex is 48, 65, 6C, and you'll notice the upper and lowercase letters, uppercase characters are higher, lower in value than lowercase characters like E, L, L, O are all start in the 6 range, and 6.5, 6C, 6C, 6F. If you remember from the hex video I sent out, hex digits go from 0 through 9 and A through F. So 0 through 9 is 0 through 9 in our base 10, and then A is 10, B is 11, C is 12, D is 13, E is 14, and F is 15. So if you see A, B, C, D, or E, or A, B, C, D, E, or F, then you know, along with other new numbers, then you're looking at hexadecimal. So this is what hello world looks like in hexadecimal, and this is a control character. This is a new line character, and this is basically kind of a carriage return line, or a line feed, carriage return. Sorry, line feed, new line, like an enter key kind of. So anyway, when you're looking at things in hex in a hex editor, this is the address of what you're looking at. If you're looking at a file, it's where it is in the file. This is the hexadecimal data over here, and this is the ASCII. So that's what we're looking at here. So we're going to be looking for the phrase game over. Actually, I'm going to be looking for, I think I'm going to look for the word education, because in the introduction screen down here, it'll scroll the logo of the game and say easy, normal, hard for educational use. And we're going to change some stuff on some of the splash screen at the beginning. So I'm not going to do game over because we're going to have to play the game to show it, but I'm going to use the splash screen at the beginning. It says educational use. So I'm going to pull that up in a hex editor and show it to you. I think I gave you guys the link to download the actual Hex Labs here. So download those Hex Labs for my slides, and it'll bring you out here to a Google Drive. And these are the Hex Labs right here, Hex Labs 1 through 5. So you're going to click on that, double click, and then click on download. It's going to download them to your machine. And we should be doing this on Kali Linux on the Cyber Range. So I'm using my local Linux laptop here, but it'll look the same. And I open up a terminal and I do a pwd, and this tells me where I'm currently located. I'm currently located in /home/tweaks. That's my home directory. I do an ls, and I can see all the stuff, all my stuff. This is my personal system. I'm going to go into the downloads directory, cd into capital DOW, hit tab. That takes me to downloads. I do a ls lart. This is everything, and then this is what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to move this into another directory because this is very cluttery out here. I'm going to move this into TMP, and I'm going to cd into TMP. That way it's a lot less cluttery. To tar this is called a tar gzip file, kind of like a zip file in Windows, except this is much older technology, but it's what you see on the Unix and some Mac systems. So if you want to unzip it, we can use the tar command, tar xvf hex labs, hit tab, and it will complete it for us. That'll untar it. And now if I do an ls, I see all the subdirectories it created. I can say cd into 1_Gameboy, and I'm there. Alright, so these are my files. I do a long listing, LA, then I'll see the file permissions, who owns it, the file sizes. You'll see these are all, if I do a H at the end, it'll tell me in kilobytes how big they are. These are 128K Game Boy ROM images from the Game Boy. So we're going to be modifying this. Actually, if you never modify the original. If you're going to edit a file, always make a copy of it first. This is very important in forensics and digital forensics. If the police if you're working for the police and you're doing on a case and you're given evidence, they never give you the original evidence. They make a copy, and when you get the copy, you make a copy of the copy because you never want to work on your original because there's no going back if you mess it up. So I'm gonna rename this one. I'm gonna copy it to _hacked.gb, and now if I do a listing, I see I have one called hacked. So this is the one I'm going to operate on, and I'm going to use the built-in Hex-Edit tool. If you haven't installed it, you would want to do a sudo apt update, and then a sudo apt install Hex-Edit. I use Hex-Edit. I think Kali comes with Hex-Editor. I prefer Hex-Edit. There's also one called ghex that you can use, and that will give you a graphical interface. But I've already done that, so I'm going to go ahead and bring it up in Hex-Edit and paste this in here. I'm going to show the game actually first. So the game is using Virtual Game Boy. I need to install what it looks like. Sudo apt update. Always do this first. Always do a sudo apt update. That updates your caches of your repositories where you get the software. Kind of like the Microsoft Store or the Apple Store. That synchronizes, so you'll know what the latest and greatest is. So I do an apt install. Oh shit, I don't know what it's called. So aptitude search. I think it's something with Game Boy in it. Let's see. No Game Boy. How about just Game Boy? Oh darn. Oh. Ugh. Okay, well, I've got a Game Boy emulator here. This matters. There's some Game Boy stuff here. Hey, this is it right here. I don't know why that wasn't coming up. So I can do a sudo apt install that. That'll install the Game Boy Advance. I think it's called Visual Boy Advance. Yeah, so VBA, I think that's what it's called. So VBA, and then the name of the ROM file, and we can play it. So if I look at the original, well, this is a copy of the original. So I'll do VBA, yeah. I do VBA-4. That'll give me a bigger screen. And play it. That's what it looks like. It's very loud. I can play easy, normal, hard. Play this, and you can move around and shoot things. Z moves you up and down. X fires. Okay, that's cute. You can, if you edit this thing in hexadecimal, though, you can change various things, your number of lives and the speed you play and all kinds of things. So hex editing is really cool. You can modify games. How I got into reading and writing hexadecimal when I was a teenager was modifying games to make it do cool stuff. So we will bring that up in a hex editor, the hacked one. Hex edit like this. And again, over here on the left is the address of where we are in the file. This is the hexadecimal data, how the machine sees it. And this is the kind of ASCII data over here. We can see the word arrow star here. And you navigate back and forth between these using tab. So now I'm over here in this column, ASCII column. I'm back in hexadecimal mode over here. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to search for the word. You do a search with a slash. I'm going to search for education. And there we go. So here's the part of the game where it says easy, normal, hard for educational use. I'm going to change some of this. I'm going to say, now looking over here on the hex side, anything that starts with anything that says a 20, that's a space character. Remember, we talked about that. So this is text data. I can modify this. We don't want to modify anything else. This is all executable code for the most part, or variables, game variables. We don't want to change. We don't know what they are yet. So we're only looking at modifying things that are surrounded by spaces. So we see some spaces over here in front of easy. We see two spaces. See two spaces. So that's space E-A-S-Y. Space norm. Space hard. Then some special characters, we don't want to touch those. But starting right here, for educational use, I can modify this and anything after that. See it scrolling on the right there? All the way to the letter E, and then it's a 0, 0. That's a null character, end of an array. So I don't want to modify anything past that last character. So, but I can modify anything else. So, say from here, from this 20s, I could say. Now, if I'm on the left, if I start typing, it's going to type hex characters. I want to type in human readable ASCII over here. So I'm going to type in. Let's see. Oops. This is how to hack! Exclamation mark. Your own vid game vid game. Okay, I'll just leave it like that. Now to save this, if you ever mess up, you can hit Control C and it'll break out. If you want to save it, Control X. It'll say you want to save this. Yes. Now we've modified that game. So I'm going to go in here now and play it again. And now you'll see the splash screen. This is how to hack your own vid game. There we go. It still will actually play and work, but that's essentially how you hack a binary ROM. In this case, a game ROM off an old Game Boy using a hex editor. Now, as you get more familiar with it, you can look up where different parts of the file map to, and the executable code, things you can change are like a maximum number of lives. There's a score. Look at that. You can modify the keys that are used to play. You can modify the number of lives. Let me see if I can find the word lives. Lives, no, unfortunately. It's not quite that easy. But I could look that up online, find out where it keeps its number of lives data, and give myself like infinite lives or infinite power-ups, things like that. Those are usually stored in some of these non-human readable variables throughout the different areas. And so here we go. Different text you can replace within the game. Bonus stages. Pausing. Here's the game over and high score area we were talking about earlier. So all kinds of stuff you can do if you really get into hacking or doing homebrew games. Homebrew is making your own games, but if you're just learning how to use a hex editor is very important to capture the flag, because capture the flags use a lot of hex data, and you'll need to be able to do things like, for example, identify what kind of file something is. If I back out a couple directories and look at a PNG file, let's look at this. What's this? I don't even know what these are. Here's a file. So here's a JPEG file. Now in the CTF, this may be just be called some file with no file extension. So if that's the case, you get a file like this that's like, what's this file? I have no idea what kind of file this is. The Linux system can peek inside the file. It looks at the first few hex values. So if I look at hex, this is this file with Hex-Edit. This is where Hex-Edit becomes very popular, very, very powerful. It looks like this starts with FFD8 FFE0, and in over here in ASCII we see this JFIF. If you ever see that in ASCII, that tells you that this is probably a JPEG file. It looks like it was even taken. This picture was taken on a Canon PowerShot camera. So we've got some EXIF data in here too, that we can that can tell us more about the image and what it was recorded, where it was 2010 it was recorded on a Canon camera. So a lot of good stuff in here. Let's kick out of this and look at how we can tell what kind of file this is by looking at its magic numbers, or called file signatures. I Google for magic number and wiki, and it takes me to these. No, it didn't take me to it. Magic numbers, file signatures. There we go. List of file signatures. Click on this, and if you're ever looking for how to identify JPEG from looking at the hex code, and go to JPEG, and then here it is. FFD8 FFE0. Does that sound familiar? That's what was inside this. So if you're given an unidentifiable binary file and you can't tell what it is, especially on Windows, if it doesn't have a file extension, Windows won't know what to do with it. So you can look in there and say, oh, this is a JPEG file. So I can take this and I can rename it from some file to some file.jpg, and I should be able to view that now. I'll bring it up in Firefox, for example. So there we go. There's the image. So that was an example of being given a file that doesn't have a file extension. You don't know what it is, but if you know how to use a hex editor, and you can read the first few hex characters here and go out and look at file signatures, lookups, you can figure out what something is. In fact, sometimes they'll try to throw you for a loop. They'll call it something like, you know, some file.pdf, and then you try to pull it up in a PDF viewer, and the PDF viewer will puke and say, this is not a PDF. Well, you can say, well, let me take a peek inside it. Let me take a peek inside it. Oh, that's not a PDF. That's a JPEG. And then you'll know. So you know what's going on. Well, if you're on Linux, though, especially on Kali Linux, this is why Kali is so good for CTFs. If you're on Kali Linux, you can just use the file command, and the file will peek inside and look at those magic numbers for you, those file signatures, and tell you, oh, this is not a PDF. This is a JPEG. In fact, here it was even taken on a This is taken on a Canon camera. So the file command inside Linux is very powerful and can tell you a lot of information. So just wanted to kind of get you guys started on reading and writing hexadecimal. So hopefully this was helpful to you. Again, go out to these slides. I got these slides here. Backer.io/hex-workshop. Come to my slides and flip down. I've got a big section here on teaching teachers, computer teachers, how to teach kids about hexadecimal. So this is pretty in depth. This is doing from ASCII to binary, then to hexadecimal, and then doing the actual binary math, and showing how hard it is, and then saying, you know, computers just care about the binary. We care about the letters we type, but A is 65, B is 66, C is 67. The computer converts that to binary. We can look at binary, but it makes our eyes cross, so we prefer a much denser, easier to recognize hexadecimal 2-digit. So it's 0 through 9 and A through F, like I was talking about. So if you look up an ASCII hex chart, ASCII hex table, it'll show you exactly what we're talking about. So here's the decimal value. Here's the printable character here. They even give it to you in binary. Look at that. Here's the lookup for A is 65, B is 66, C is 67, and in hexadecimal, where'd the hex go? I've never used this table before. ASCII characters, ASCII. Oh, this is the hex here. So this is binary, and this is hex. I was mesmerized by this thing up here. So this is octal here in this column, I think. Yeah, octal, hex, binary. We're only interested in the hexadecimal, but the hexadecimal directly maps to binary. So you may eventually need to know how to do binary operations, especially if you're going to do encryption and stuff. But see, there it is. The space character. Space is 32 in decimal, but it's 20 in hex. So knowing 20 and A is 65, that can get you quite a ways in being able to decipher this stuff and visually recognize ASCII data from binary data. So ASCII data is data that we can represent with the keys on the keyboard. So that's about it. I just wanted to show you guys kind of how that worked. And if you missed the class the other night, you'll still be able to follow along. You need to download that HexLabs gzip file, tar gzip file. You'll need to untar it using tar xvf and then the name. That'll untar it, and then you can go in there and start working on stuff. Okay, I think that's about it. If there's any questions, come back and ask them at the next Cyber Circuit Club meeting, and we'll see you guys then. Take care.